So welcome. This is Dr. Alana James, and today's conversation is about what makes writing hard and how to move past it. My intention for today, and thank you very much for the many people who are in the room and those of you watching by recording. My intention is to move quickly through the basic things I think that cause this to be hard. And then after each one of those in the slides, there are a lot of handouts on thoughts you might want to investigate if that is something that you've dealt with, and also in most cases, some exercises you might want to do that come from the PD education work on the website. And then I hope to spend at least half the time answering direct questions from people in the room. So just to say, this is part of the academic writing community block. And one really great thing for you to do, if academic writing is something you want to keep up on, is to follow that link to the opt-ins, the resources opt-ins, and then opt in for the academic writing community. And then you'll get access to all of these things, whether or not they happen to cross your email or you see them at the right time. So that might be useful to you. And today's questions will be answered from www.wooclap.com/AC writing. And AC writing doesn't have to be all caps. You can just type it in your phone and type away as you go. So if anything I say here today makes you want to ask a question, go there to get it answered. And you can vote up other people's questions as well. We do have one question in already. So what makes writing hard and how to move past it? Mostly we're going to move past these basic things quickly and then leave it up to you. Okay, so graduate writing is hard for everyone, partially because the rules have changed, partially because we use words differently. So all the way through high school and into undergraduate, you're told to research something. And what that means is that you go to the library and you look up some things and you come back with some ideas and you write about them, and that's a done deal. And you get pretty good at that level of writing and you feel pretty confident in your writing. And then all of a sudden you're held to this standard of critical. And actually criticality, the ability to be critical, has 4 parts: to read critically, to think critically, to question things, and to analyze, to write critically and to analyze critically. So, and very seldom do universities do a complete job of unpacking all of those things. So all of a sudden you're held to a standard of 4 completely different but related skill sets that you may have never actually been formally or specifically introduced to. Along with those skill sets is the vastly increased need to be both specific and explicit. So what's the difference? Specific is not to use soft words. If you're going to say they went and did something, is the they 10 people, 12 people, a population of people? So that's specificity. To be explicit is one step more than that. And these are kind of the world according to Dr. Alana specifications. So I'm sure there are others out there who have a much more definite way of discussing this. But when a person needs to be explicit, they need to unpack the context as well as the specific thing that goes on, and the whole package needs to be there for the reader. That's how I see the difference. So related, both of them driving you into a different level of language because the language has to be quite finite to get the job done. And that's what I mean by a different level of language. And also the need to watch out for jargon, because you may be in a class and they all may just off the top of their head in class use a certain acronym, but when you write, you need to make sure that your reader understands the acronyms and the language that you're using. So rules change around you. Expectations are made of you that are different. This unpacks this idea then of knowledge and practice. How do you solve that problem? Because this is what makes it hard and how to get past it. So what makes this hard is that criticality is a much more defined skill. And what you need to get past it is you need a lot of knowledge about what that means. And then you might need to practice. And here are a whole lot of links, mostly done by Professor Maria Sanchez Patino, who's our partner here, who is very good at taking specifics and breaking them down into steps that make sense that you can follow. So a number of these are links to webinars, and then several of hers also had handouts and exercises, and there was a two-parter specifically on critical writing. And since today's topic is about writing, I moved that over. You might want to go there and see what practice she suggests. All right. Also, academic writing is hard because it demands of us that we know how to build an argument. And once again, how to build an argument and all the kinds of arguments and all the subtleties that have to do with arguments may never have been taught to us specifically. No matter what level of academic writing we're on, what we need to understand is that an argument requires evidence. So I can think and say this is true, and I can build an essay about how true it is, and I can build a lot of other facts. But if I don't have evidence that it's true, and in most times, at least at the doctoral level, evidence that has numbers behind it, rather than evidence that has been some other author said it was true. So that's a kind of evidence. That's evidence from the literature. But a step up from that is evidence that comes with figures and data. So we also are required to know that literature in our field, enough to know the counter arguments. So if we're saying, I don't know what we might be saying, you're all in different fields, but we might be saying A, and A is fairly well proven, but in a scientifically oriented world, not very seldom is anything agreed upon 100%. There will be other people who see it differently, who are pointing to the same circumstance from a different specific position, and they see the world differently, and those things add up to counter arguments. So when we have an argument, we need to be specific, and it's a good idea if we understand enough to know what counter arguments might be out there. It also requires us that we tie our ideas to data. And I think this is the biggest significant outcome of my graduate world in my personal life, was that it became harder and harder for me to hear a story on the news or anywhere else that wasn't tied to data, and to take it seriously. So you just get used to, where's the data? And that ideas that are presented to you are presented in a clear and a manner that represents that data to be true. All right, so these are ideas, these are skills that we don't just come born with. And very few of us lived in an environment at home where where everybody talked like this all the time and they were taken for granted. And so the PD education site has done a lot to unpack different kinds of arguments, as you can see. Also, how they're needed in writing and thinking papers, all of it, exercises for it. And there is a slide in your handouts that gives you more places to go if this is a skill set you want to grow. For all of these things, writing is hard because at the bottom line, we don't know something we need to know that's now expected of us. Writing is also hard because we may never have written a document as big as the one we're currently required to be writing. And this will be true for research masters in their thesis and for doctors, PhDs and other kinds of doctorates in their dissertation or their 3 chapters or whatever format, more than it would be necessarily for everybody in the graduate arena. But the whole truth is that small wobbles, I can say it this way and this way and this way. And if you worked in my business, you would know that Alana frequently says it this way and then this way and then this way. As my ideas develop, I change those little wording pieces a lot. And it drives people who work here nuts because I called the webinar this when I designed it in the August, but by the time I get there, I really see that it needs to be this, so I changed the title a little bit. Those kinds of things are small wobbles, and they create tension. Things don't go straight across as easily. But when you multiply that times 100 pages or 200 pages, they become very big. Instead of writing a thing that will get you to graduation easily, you write a very bumpy road, and your reader who hasn't been with you on the whole journey the same way takes that bumpy road and runs into a roadblock, and you have challenges. And it's all because as our ideas develop, it becomes more natural to use a different word in that place. But the word we used in the first place and the word we used in the second place, even slightly, can throw off the continuity of our work. So the knowledge about consistency, it's one of those, it's not as long as a list, because it boils down to the fact that things have to be consistent, but it's your work and your field, and there's a million ways you can personally be inconsistent. So these are the broader topic areas that are actually a little bit of knowledge on your part, and then working with others in community in a group and being able to share ideas so that you can show somebody what you've got and they can speak specifically to inconsistencies they see, and then you can unpack those and understand them for yourselves. So the practice side of this is as important, more important than the knowledge side, but it also comes together with the rest of your life. So if I am writing along every day for a week and then my life gets quite busy and I don't come back to it for 5 weeks, when I come back to it in week 5, I am not going to write consistently the way I did 5 weeks before. It is really hard to do. So how to keep your life consistent so your writing can be consistent will be a challenge, and it will be a challenge for those of you who are doctoral students. And that particular right-hand side, how to keep your work consistent through a busy life, is a student-to-student webinar that we had pre-COVID and post-COVID. She discusses how she and her husband work together with a brand new baby growing up the first year in order to get her through her PhD. That's useful to you. It's the right-hand link. Another thing that makes writing hard is because there are too many ideas. Too many ideas. You know, raise your hand in the chat if you have gotten into the lit in your field and all of a sudden your mind is a little slow because there are just too many ideas here. And how are you going to pull all those ideas together? And they're all interesting. And for those of you who might be familiar with the phrase, it's a shiny object, meaning I have trouble tracking my ideas because, oh, there's a shiny object. Oh, there's a shiny object. Well, most of us go into academia because we're curious, because we like ideas, and that suddenly we're thrown overwhelming amount of literature that has all these great ideas. And then how do we pull all those ideas together? And our mind gets a little dull and we stop, writing becomes hard. So the outcome of this is that we need to have organizational patterns that will work for us. That develops over time. Don't expect yourself to have them right away, but keep working on them. I still am working on mine. And I've written 4 books and a ton of journal articles, and I still work on my organizational patterns. We also need to understand our readers. So if I'm targeting the reader of this particular journal, I'm going to target it slightly differently than this particular journal. And if I'm smart and if I've taken my time, I will have tried to think about those things prior to actually writing. It definitely means I need to funnel my ideas. I have some links for you to help you learn how to do that if you don't, and to focus on what you want your reader to remember. So you're writing this article, you're in control of their mind and their ideas for a minute, if you do a good job. So what are the 2 or 3 things what's the reason you're doing this? What do you want them to take? So on the left-hand side, on the knowledge side of this, there's some previous webinars on organizing ideas, on getting your stuff. We have a lot of stuff in academic life, so how do we keep it working for us rather than against us? How do we funnel to our readers? How do we take them where we want to go? And there's a handout from one of Dr. Maria's on that, and there's a lot there. And one thing that is useful here, a couple of things that are useful. If you haven't done the 30-day challenge, it's also in the opt-ins, 30-day writing challenge. Every day you get a 5-minute video that helps you with some of these ideas in kind of a drip method to help you get your writing going every day. People who have done it rave about how much they liked it. So that's an idea. And the other idea that you'll see coming up is there's a box set on how-tos, and some of the how-tos are how to organize, how to get things basically together. So tools, what are the tools? The funnel is my favorite tool. The funnel, and you'll see videos, and I have one that I pulled out of clip art, and I literally sit down and plan my writing. What's the big ideas I want them? What big ideas am I pulling from? What narrows them down? Other authors? What narrows them down even more? Usually evidence. What narrows it down, and where do I want my reader to go? And if I can keep that in mind, my writing will have more continuity and consistency, and less revisions. Really a lot less revisions. If you haven't ever prepared your work for a 3-minute thesis, it doesn't matter if you're doing a thesis or if you're just doing a paper, but the ideas in being able to do a very big body of work over 3 minutes are solid. So you might want to do some web research on 3-minute theses, look some up. If you can do that, you can write the bigger stuff more easily because you have the consistent thread in mind. I also want to tell you that smart art is your friend. When I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to say what I want to say, I go to smart art, usually to relationships for me, for what I do. And I look at the different drawings and I think about the ideas I'm trying to pull together. And there are often pictures that make sense. I have 3 ideas, they overlap, that's a Venn diagram. I have ideas that kind of go together and I want my reader to come out here. There's a smart art that looks like a cocktail glass with bubbles in it. I'm a visual learner, and so seeing those pictures helps my mind hook to the ideas, and then I have an easier time of writing consistently. Also, Microsoft Word is complex technology now. Certainly I have used it for, I don't know, 20 years, long time. And as new things are added, we don't necessarily catch on to what is there that wasn't there before. We've only learned to use it the way it used to be. So if you haven't gone to the PD education website and typed in MS Word or just MS in the search bars, there are 15 short videos on different Microsoft Word tools that probably every graduate student would find useful. So we're going to go now to wooclap.com/AC writing. And for this, let me just turn on my screen so you can see what it looks like and the questions that I'm looking at. I'll start at the bottom because the new ones come in on the top, so all of you can add to it if you want to. So getting started, keeping going, not procrastinating. Everything gets in the way of my writing. I'm going to take the getting started and tack it on in a moment to the first question about deciding what ideas to put in my paper, because those two things go together. So I'll take those together. But once you've got your idea of where you're going in your writing, then keeping going actually comes from an interior motivation piece. If you find yourself, and this could come with writer's block too, could be this, the keeping going part, and the not procrastinating part. We have difficulty, meaning humanity tends to have difficulty pushing forward on something when we aren't convinced in ourselves we're going the right way or we're doing a good job. It's just, I think, a pretty common human characteristic that if we are stalled out, a possibility is that we are stalled because our intuitive mind understands that we're not necessarily going the right direction. So the more we try to push ourselves that direction, the less momentum we have from ourselves to keep going. So I think when any student comes to me and says, I just can't make myself do this, then I say, okay, let's take a step back from this you're trying to do, and let's just talk about the circumstances. Do you feel you're in the right place? Are you studying the right thing? Do you have the right, does it feel right to you to look at this? Are you still motivated to do that bit of research? Are there things that feel like big challenges that you're not really looking at? And is that something that gets in the way? Okay, so let's say the answer to those questions are yes. Then we are better off if we take them seriously. We write down the pros of where we are and the cons of where we are. We use that like data. We decide where we want to go. If we need to, we go talk to our counselors or other people at our university that can help with those challenges. I have had people come here and say, I don't think I'm in the right program. Well, then figure out where you want to go and go talk to somebody at your university to see what the options are for getting there. We have to take ourselves seriously. All right, so but say you are having trouble keeping going and you are in the right place, but right now it might just be a little boring or it might be other things, and that's oftentimes the place where we see procrastination. Oh, shiny object. Oh, I should do my email. Oh, there's 16 emails. Oh, one of those emails, there's a good sale. Or look, oh, my phone got a notification. I have to look at it. So that's habits. That's about turning off your notifications, about Pomodoro technique, which if you don't know about Pomodoro, you turn on a timer and you force yourself to do something for that period of time, and then you give yourself a break afterwards. Pomodoro. Look it up on the web. You'll see a bunch of stuff around it. I use it whenever I'm scattered and I can't get myself going. And procrastination just I'm on the timer. I cannot look at that notification. I cannot go off and play that game. I cannot do whatever until I finish my time on the timer. And then I give myself a few minutes where I can do it, and then I come back. The hard thing about procrastination, and if this is an interesting topic to you, especially if you're a master's student, to right after this, we have a master's open office hours, and I'm talking a little bit about procrastination. And I looked up, there's a great TED Talk. Maybe I can find it real quick. Yeah, procrastination on TED. That's how I found it earlier. This one, Tim Urban, Inside the Mind of a Master Procrastinator, is a really funny TED Talk about procrastination. So if that's helpful to you, I recommend it. What he says is that we have trouble in graduate school because there aren't, and interesting that he used graduate school as his example, but you have big milestones, but you don't have small milestones getting you somewhere. So you don't have a deadline tomorrow, so it's easy to not get somewhere else. Okay, lots more stuff coming in. I better go faster. Writer's block, how to overcome it. Sit down with Pomodoro for 20 minutes and write something, even if it's not what you thought you were going to write. That's one idea. Second idea, keep a journal. And as you finish what you're doing that day, you write what you intend to do the next day. So when you sit down, your first thought isn't, what am I going to do today? But, oh, what does my journal say I should do today? That'll help get you started as well. Those are two good ones. The thing about writer's block, and take the 30-day writing challenge. That'll help because it makes you write every day. It builds a habit. The thing about writer's block, and if you're facing it because you're not sure of what you have to say or you're not sure of yourself, then just be honest about that. If you're facing insecurity because of your writing, face it and work with it. And if you're facing insecurity because of not your ideas, read more literature. Good writers read a lot. And Erica says that she has followed that advice about the journal, and it makes a big difference. And Karen has put up the 30-day writing challenge. That's it. It's in the talk, and that TED Talk was brilliant. So, yeah, great. I thank you, people in the room, for doing stuff and telling others that it has worked for you. I really appreciate that. Deciding what ideas to put in my paper makes it hard. Honestly, I struggle. I call this brain dead. That's how it feels to me. So what do? I mind map, I spreadsheet, I draw. I have a notebook and I have a Remarkable, and I have to use my hand. There's something about using my hand. There's something about putting down an idea and drawing a circle around it and putting lines out and drawing the other things that go with it and making arrows that helps me cement the things I want to do. And then I see if I have enough to put it in a funnel. Big ideas, little ideas, evidence, where I want them to go. It's not easy. But every step we take makes it easier. So it is hard to write a graduate paper when you've only just come from undergraduate school, but by the end of your first year, you'll probably have that pretty okay. But then when you finish your master's and if you're doing a research master's, that thesis will be hard. But if you are a master's student and you're thinking you're going to get a PhD, do a research thesis. Yes, it's harder now, but it'll make that dissertation much easier. So it's baby steps. And what we did as an undergraduate is baby steps to the master's. Research thesis is baby steps to the dissertation. Writing in class working with data analysis, those kinds of things in the PhD are baby steps to writing up the final dissertation. Just see yourself as a learner, and with learning we scaffold. So what have you done in the past that turned out pretty okay? So now you're building on that, and you'll have wobbles until you get strong on the next step. So struggles only mean that you're conscious of where you are, and it's fine to struggle. If you are in graduate school and you are not ever struggling, you have not taken on something big enough. Because graduate school, part of the reason we're here is because struggle works, because we're the kind of people that can get past struggle. How can I pull all the threads together in my writing? Okay, so this particular if you go to the PD Education site and you typed in the word thread, you would get quite a few things that have to do with golden threads. And the idea there is that writers need to have a golden thread that carries them through the long books, dissertations, thesis, research, whatever it is. We have to, that's a lot of words. And so we have to be able to have a lot of words and still keep our reader on track. And that track is a golden thread. But we live in a world where we take in a lot of ideas and we have a lot of shiny objects. And the next thing we know, we have too many threads. So the first thing, when I see a question like, how can I pull all my threads together? I say, are you sure you don't have too many threads? So you map out what you've got already. And maybe the funnel doesn't work as one funnel anymore. Maybe it's two. Maybe it needs to be a bigger body of writing. Maybe you need to chop off some of this writing and put it off. I know a lot of master's students who want to do their doctorate at the master's level. Keep it to the size that you are capable of doing. So first thing about all the threads together is make sure you don't have too many. But if you can put all your threads in a funnel over here, and yet when you write them over here, they seem to be like jumble, then what you need to do is separate them out in headings and tell your reader at the top, this section is organized in this way, and you're going to go from A to B to C, and then A is a heading, and you funnel A, B is a heading, you funnel B, C is a heading, you funnel C, and you get your reader through these kind of mini funnels to where you want them to go. I fear my topic will lead to a dead end or not enough research to support my hypothesis. How do I confront or prevent this? I just love having all of you guys ask me questions because you ask such good questions. So I just have to say that this author is really intelligent to be asking this question now, because there will be an equal number of people who are sure their topic will go and their hypothesis will go, and they never ask whether or not they're going to get to enough data to support anything. So it's a matter of data, of having enough, so that when you are at the end and you have all your data, you can, some of it won't work very well because it just didn't work out properly, and still you have enough. And then whether it supports your hypothesis, if you have enough data, it does not have to support your hypothesis. You can absolutely have a crash and burn idea with your hypothesis. You had a great idea. It made sense in the lit. You had the right problem. It's set up properly. You got through your proposal. It all made sense. Other people thought this was worthy of study. And yet you got a lot of data and it went, that's really not a problem. Because we learn, meaning we, humanity, learn as much from mistakes as we learn from positive. So even though in our heart of hearts as researchers, we always want research that supports our hypothesis, if we are confronted with data that totally trashes our hypothesis, oh well, we close the door on that. We write it up beautifully, and we definitely take it to conferences, let other people know that this is a dead end, and then we get on about our business. Actually, there are examples, and some of you may have been around last year and you may have heard the Boji tapes. So if you go on the PD Education site and you type in the word B-O-J-E, Boji is a man, and he is a storytelling science professor, professor emeritus now, and a brilliant man, written 20 or 30 books. And he was a series of conversations that I kind of broke out and worked with, because he says so much in a short period of time you can't follow him. And in that, he tells a story about a man who won the Nobel Prize because his work actually was full of holes. And he'd gone so far, he wanted to sail through, and it didn't work out that way. And so he seriously looked at why it didn't work out that way and all the things that went with that. And that's the work that got him the Nobel Prize. I hope that's helpful to this person. And if not, show up for an office hours and tell us the story specifically, and I'm happy to tease out even more. 5,000 to 6,000 words, and I have twice as much. My advisor said break it down to 2 papers or edit it down to 1. Let's see what the rest of this says. What are your thoughts? Can you share your experience? That's the I guess that I'll start with the can I share my experience, in that when I have to get smaller, I get stronger. My writing gets stronger. The way I get there is I talk my work to other people. So I'll have a conversation about something I'm researching and how it's gone and what I think I've said, and I listen to how I'm telling my own story. Another thing I do is I write, and I do my presentations, because I present my research usually sooner than I write it up. I do them both at the same time, or back and forth and back and forth. And in that process, when I'm practicing a presentation, I can hear when I'm boring, where I can't hear it when I'm typing, when I'm writing. I can really be flowery in my writing, and it doesn't necessarily cut to the chase. So I'm a cut to the chase type of author whenever I can be. And then if it could be 2 papers, I would say to this person, think about 2 funnels and what those 2 funnels might be. Because if you can do 1 bit of work and then pretty easily divide it into 2, and some are in agreement and some are different, why not, right? Pretty efficient. So, so you can play with that. We put things together as we might do a publication, and then or a webinar, a video, and then we might do 2 or 3 other things out of it, including the slides, the exercises, everything else. That's, in today's world where everything's on the web as a separate thing, that's very useful. It gives people a bigger chance to catch up to what you want to say and where you want to say it. Whew. I think I got ahead of myself and I went to the wrong one. There we go. The only problem with this is, as you can tell, because I'm jumping around. There we go. all of a sudden there were a lot more questions. It took me back. What tools can I use to stop changing my writing, which takes me longer to complete my work? What tools can I use to stop changing my writing? That might be that your words are slipping and sliding as you go, or that might be changing, might be getting to a later revision stage earlier. So just to say, we write, we think, we read, we rewrite, we think, we revise. And have in your plans time to do all of those steps. And there's nothing I have ever learned that makes it easier. But I have learned that revision takes me less time when I have Microsoft Word read it to me. I can hear stuff I can't see. I wish I had better on this one, because it's how we write, the very specifics of how we write is personal. And I would say writing groups are very useful here. You talk it out before you write it out, and then you write it out easier. Also, when I'm writing seriously, I use Dragon by Nuance software on my phone, and I dictate it, because I can think. When I'm thinking, I can look up, I can access the prefrontal cortex of my brain, and I am smarter, better, more sound than I am when I'm looking kind of halfway down because I'm typing. And then I just transfer it in, and I can take it from there more easily. That might help this person. I'm a little confused about self-plagiarism. Yeah. If I'm doing the same research throughout the PhD program, can I have an overlapping sentence, etc.? Yes. Yes, if it's published in another time. For instance, if part of your work is that you wrote something and it got published, then you need to cite the fact that where it was published before. But if you wrote something for a paper, for another class, something not published, that said, very seldom, even though I may cut and paste from things to things, very seldom does that make it past revision. I may use things I've done before to block out what I'm going to do this time, but this time I'm doing it for a different reason or a different audience or something. It is not the same circumstance. So as I rewrite, as I think about it and I rewrite, I'm taking that and I'm changing it. And then as I revise and I have Microsoft Word reading it to me, very seldom will the words be exactly the same. Knowing that the corpus of knowledge on any topic is constantly evolving, and our minds and everything else, at what point do I make a hard switch from reading, researching to getting the task of writing? When deadlines. The answer to this question is deadlines. I worry my writing will be invalidated from missing a mysterious key article that debunks everything I'm trying to say. So what? This person, I think, is holding themselves to too high a standard. I hope I'm not being blunt if this is yours. But in today's world, first off, we will have things debunked. Every scientific, all of us, no matter how old we are, we grew up in what part of the academic world, have probably at some times faced a conference where somebody at the conference had a completely different idea, view of the world. And if we had considered it debunking, consider it instead just scientific conversation. No idea ever out there is perfect. And in today's world, where things are published at such a speed, none of us will ever know all of our corpus. No, none of us. So when do you switch from reading, researching to the task of writing? When you have a deadline, when you have to. The best thing that I've done lately is my 15 minutes that I do on Mondays when I'm talking about my own research, because my deadline is I have to get this part of it done by next Monday so I can tell all of you about it. And it's keeping the pace, because I'm in the middle of looking up lit and that can just go on forever. So I appreciate your question. You just have to learn how to set your own timelines. I feel what I want to write has already been said in the material I read for my paper. Okay, that's fine. You're a different person. You will say it differently. You will come to it with a different background. Put some time into considering why it's important to you. What do you bring to this important topic that that someone else didn't bring or didn't say exactly the same? Begin to tease out the critical differences between you and others. But in the meantime, you and if you are in the place this person is, finding ways to rephrase, reiterate, and not quoting throughout your paper. If you're quoting too much, it is as likely to come from an insecurity about about your own words or your own experience as it is that they're not so much smarter. They're just another person and they said it better. And all of us have gone through a phase where we took on this new higher level and then suddenly all this lit looked like it was so much bigger, different, whatever than ours. And our first thing is to quote them because they're better or bigger or whatever. And then as we grow, we have less and less of a need to do that. It's part of our process as academic growth. So be comfortable with yourself. Know that what I want to write has already been written. Well, you want to write it. Good for you. Keep going and figure it out and consider your own context and what you bring that other people don't have. And by the way, I'm a very senior researcher and I still have to go through my thing about what do I bring to this topic that other people out there. I run into it more at conferences than in writing, but at conferences, I sometimes find myself getting small rather than saying, hey, I can do this. I know this. I know this from a place other people don't know this. So we all wrestle with that. I have 60 pages to write 60 pages in 14 days for my comp, 3 papers totally, and I'm struggling. Okay, so when you talk about comps, just to make sure you've got the background, I think the best way to approach comps is to have all your syllabus out. So you have laid out all the things that you were supposed to have gone through. And you've done the mental work so you feel confident with that body of work that you have been through. And you remind yourself of your confidence. It's a high stakes test. Comps are a high stakes test. And so we all approach those differently. And 60 pages isn't writing all day and all night. Pretty easy to write 5 pages a day. Just vary it and give yourself slots and then go take a walk and do another slot and take a walk. Pomodoro should work for this. I can do 45 minutes and then I can take a 10-minute break and I can do something completely different. And I can focus on this one and then I can focus on this one. So I'm not focused on the same one all the time. What is my strategy for organizing? I'm just going to tell you in 9 minutes. I use Kanban Flow to organize, just to show you what it's like. I have the things I have to do, and then I have the swim lanes, which are business development, team development, webinar planning, work for students, what I have to do for the university customers. And so those are things that are moving along. Those are developmental things, and these are to-do things. And I keep them all up in front of me. That's one organizational pattern. When it comes to my writing, I write and I do PowerPoint and I mind map and I have something down here and I kind of jump around them because each has its own thought process that goes with it, and I find writing uses this part of my brain and is more concrete, and to do it well I have to be able to have both in sync, and that's difficult. part of organization is learning ourselves well enough to know where we're likely to fall on our face and to build up strategies so that we're less likely to do that. Have to fall on our face a few times to get there. I feel like I've never get my writing done. Net writing is never done. Seems like everything comes before my writing. Okay, so this one has to do with Stephen Covey gave us a beautiful 4x4. Important, not important is the side. No, important and not important is the top, and urgent, not urgent is the side. So just get rid of the non-urgents. Just put every task you have in that 4x4. Urgent, not urgent, important, not important. So not importance, delegate them, get rid of them, ignore them, whatever. Importance, urgent, not urgent. Most of us respond to urgent before we respond to non-urgent. Very bad habit. If you want to get anything done, make sure every day has important, not urgent in it. And that will solve that problem, because your writing is important, not urgent, until you have a deadline, and then you're kind of crammed too much into it. I go to too many conferences and check emails all the time. Emails have an urgency, and we feel good because we've handled that urgency. Not good for us. He does it really well. That's the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I feel like I keep on learning but never write. Take the 30-day writing challenge. Watch the video, make yourself write. Watch the video, make yourself write. At the end of 30 days, it hopefully will get better. We've had a lot of people tell us it will. But you're not alone, and it will come. And by the way, the person who has this, it'll come and go. It isn't how well we write, but how well we get back on writing after we've stopped, just like exercising. It doesn't go away. It's just part of our challenges. I have struggles bringing in all the work that is needed. Oh, I feel like I'm overwriting, and I leave out some important parts of what I need to have in a paper. Can you help me with this? You're not considering your reader. You cannot possibly put everything that is important in a paper and have your reader and have it not be a book. And even books have to have things cut off of them. So consider your reader first. What does your reader need to know? Where are you going? Funnel your ideas. And if you know at the bottom where you want your reader to come out, then cut off the things that don't fit a nice clean funnel. You'll be able to write it again with a different funnel another time. You cannot possibly, if you funnel it well, you will have all the important parts, but you won't be so likely to have the unnecessary little niggly parts. And I know you're typing in wonderful things, and I haven't had a chance to look because I'm still answering questions. I feel like I'm reading all the time and not writing. So force yourself to use one of those things you really liked when you were reading and write it again from a slightly different point of view, or use your reading as a stepping off point for your reading. Good writers are good readers. So if you're writing a dissertation, read dissertations. If you're writing a thesis, read thesis. Figure out what's really good. Like I'm writing journal articles, and I'm printing out and saving the ones that I just read one, and it's really well written. Much better written probably than any journal article I've ever written. So it's a model. I'll find others. And then when it comes time to write, it makes it a little easier because my reading and my pleasure at reading push out over to my writing. I struggle with collecting my thoughts and putting it on paper after the research and reading. That's when I mind map, and I use smart art, and I think about what I'm going to do as a presentation and how I'm going to present it. We are very lucky as academic writers that we are held to background, lit, methodology, results and findings. And so we always have background context. We almost always have a conversation about lit, even if we're not doing research where we'll have methodology, results, and findings. We then have outcomes to our ideas. And we are also held to keep having an argument, knowing what it is, and keeping it going. We have lots of tools. So if you don't have a handle on all of those tools, I have given you a brilliant set of slides today, and you should take the time to go watch those videos. And by the way, that leads me to, since I have 3 minutes left, I did want to make sure you all knew those tools, many of those, almost all of those are going to be pages that are also going to be up here on the app. So, of course, you're busy people. Of course, you don't have time to watch the, I don't know, 15, 20, 30 hours of stuff I put up in those slides. But if this is interesting to you, you can find those topics on the app, and you can be listening while you do the dishes. You can be listening while you do housework. You can take your dog for a walk and be listening. And that's what the app gives you. So that might be helpful. And just to make sure you know all of this, because you are coming to things here. You come to 7 hours of things, and you have earned an endorsement from me personally. I am happy to write letters to future employers that say, watch out for this person. They are, you know, in the top 5% because they are smart enough to know what they don't know and to come seek out answers so they can get better on their own time. And the way you get that endorsement letter is you fill out a spreadsheet of what you came to, what you thought you were going to get out of it, what you actually got out of it, some stories. And then I will wrap that spreadsheet into a letter to somebody else to say how great you are. I'm happy to do that because I honestly feel that all of you deserve that if you're showing up here more than just occasionally. And, you know, it's up to you, but consider it. Also, left-hand side of the PD is all the things that are coming up. So that's pretty intense calendar. Please make sure you don't miss things because we don't send, even though it might seem to you like you get a lot of emails, we don't send emails on everything. So there will be stuff there that might appeal, that you want to go take the time and sign up for it. And then you know you get the recording or you know you get whatever. And if you think you might have missed something, we're much better this year about getting them up on the website as the latest webinars pretty quickly. So I hope that's helpful. Last question. How do you recommend keeping track of our writing? As we write about a topic, we might want to come back to that topic already written and add new things. I have a couple of things about that. One is I might have written a section in something that I didn't use, and I cut and paste it, and I have a parking lot, and I park things I'm not actually using, just so I have them, because there is something precious about decent writing. I have a file folder that is my writing, and I use the date in the title of it, so I can kind of remember how long ago it was I was working on that thing, and I can go find it. All that said, I find I very seldom consider doing that because the thoughts I have this year are expanded, and very seldom do I, maybe I'm wrong, could be wrong, but very seldom do I think that what I wrote a year ago is as smart as what I would write now. So I tend to start off again, but that could be my personality. Let me just quickly say, Erica is saying the best tool ever is the spreadsheet that I've been talking about. For those of you doing research, we have a new tool, spreadsheet. If you go to the 15 minutes, you'll get the link for it. They're on Mondays. And that's being talked a little bit about in the chat, which is good. I had a high school teacher once tell me this great one-liner, writing is never done, it's simply do. Oh, that's a good one, makes me laugh. It's absolutely true. And embarrassing errors, we just have to get used to ourselves. I can't spell, and I don't see spelling mistakes, and it has embarrassed me a number of times, and now I just have to say I have that weakness, and hopefully I have editors who see it. Um, uh, so excellent. Thank you very much for the nice things you say. And so we try to be practical. Last person here said, thanks for practicality. I am a pragmatic researcher and a pragmatic practitioner. And while the theoretical is very interesting, it does not really interest me very much, not nearly as much as the question, how do we get this done? So that's what you can find in what we do. And you'll find that that's why I'm a good partner. A lot of the webinars partner with Professor Maria, who's very good at the theoretical as well. So, and we have others. So welcome. If you haven't come to us before, hopefully this is the beginning of a new relationship. I'm very happy you're here. And with that, I'm going to cut off the recording. We're a little running over. Try not to do that. And it's all very good to see so many of you here, and just the best, right? Just the best with your graduate years. Your universities have a lot to offer you, and we try to work very closely with them. Oh, the app is on the PD Education site. It'll be PD Education or it'll be Doctoral Net. Probably it's still under Doctoral Net, which is our business name. We went through a rebranding to PD Education because that's really what we do, is professional development for your university. So look up Doctoral Net at the app stores if you're not finding PD Education. There's not anything wrong with you. You are normal, and everything that you are all going through, many others have gone through. Very good. Let's get to work. New friends. See you next time. Join the academic community. Go to PD Education, resources, opt-ins, join the academic community, and that'll make sure I can get a hold of you. Bye. If it lets me turn off the recording. There we go.